Every petrol head has their origin story. Mine's no different. And to get to the start of it, we need to discuss my parents. So those of you who watch the channel will probably be expecting for me to say my dad was some mad spanner wielding car fanatic, or even my mum, but the sad story is that's not the case. Even the cars that were owned by my parents in my formative years were not particularly exciting at all. So going back to the first one, when I was born, my dad had a Datsun 120Y. That, to most petrol heads today, would seem like a great thing to own, but bear in mind that my mum and dad were family people. This was a toolbox. Here it is in white, and here's the reason why it quickly went away. This car was kicking about when I was in nursery, so one of the early petrol head memories that I've been told about was I drew a picture of it, as you do when you're in nursery, and brought it home to go on the fridge, pride of place, and my dad saw it, and saw the white shape, and the wheels, and the perfect detail, and the brown spots of rust in the sills. So, apologies Dad. I guess the shame probably got the better of him because it promptly appears in another picture with black on the bottom of the sills. So what promptly followed was that car got traded in for something a bit more respectable. Car number 2 was a Vauxhall Cavalier. Now this was my primary school car, so to speak, and as you can probably see from this picture, there's a reason why my dad went for the colour. One of the key things I remember about this car was the green velour, and it was green top to bottom, inside and out, dashboard, the whole lot. But the reason I remember the velour so much was I remember playing in the back bench with my toy cars while sitting on the floor. Yeah, this was the 80s, guys. There was no seatbelt legislation there at all, so that was totally legit and totally okay. But those were basic, simple cars. Don't get me wrong, my dad took care of them as best he could for a man of his means, but they weren't the cars that he wanted, they were just the cars he needed. But that changed as soon as he earned enough money to do something about it. Now I remember the day that he picked this up. In fact, I remember the day he test drove it quite vividly. It was from a car dealer in Prestwick. I don't remember the name of that, but don't worry, it's long since gone anyway. But we picked this car up and took it a test drive. I say we, the whole family. This car dealer was so keen to get a sale out of this that he gave my dad the keys and let him take the car away for the day. I can't remember much about what the test drive was, but I do remember that we specifically went down to the Ayrshore and my dad bought us all ice cream. Anyway, the deal was done, my dad bought the car that I guess at that time he always wanted, the Mercedes 230e. It was, by all accounts, especially for a boy, a stunning car. One of those ones that when you go home from school you think, my dad's got a Merc. I was really proud of him, really impressed, and that car stayed with my dad for a long time. He loved and cherished this car. He obviously worked really hard to get it. Remember, back in those days, car finance wasn't a thing at all, so he must have really scrimped and saved to buy it. But it lasted 12 years in his tenure, so that really was the car of my childhood. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Good way to check to see if a car still exists. Go into the DVLA. At least tell you when it was last on the road, so as luck would have it. I actually remember the registration of my dad's old car, which is W123 SSN. Go. There we go, comes up Mercedes-Benz 230e, date of registration 1st November 1983, no spring chicken. First MOT due unknown, right, not a good sign, but not the end of the world because it's now over 40 years old. It's not going to be due an MOT anyway because it's now exempt. MOT history, show. Because the MOT histories don't go back past 2018 for this, we're also completely out of luck. So let's check the tax. That'll tell us when it was last taxed as a vehicle. So come out of this and go back to the DVLA for a tax check. Is this your vehicle? Colour blue? Yes, continue. Survey says it's on Sorn. So the good part about this, it gives us a bit more information. Date of last V5, that is the registration certificate application. Now that obviously would have changed when my dad sold the car or when somebody else since then sold it. The bad news is 24th of February 2000. That's the last date that this car had a log change. That's also the date that my dad sold on. That car spent longer off the road now than it did ever spend on the road. I don't think the chances of finding this are going to be good. Now, I know my dad sold it to somebody to restore. The problem is that car was pretty rough by that point. If it's not been on the road for 24 years, it's probably long gone. That's annoying. Now, what I could do next is go through the DVLA ownership details, pay a fee, and it would tell you who currently is the registered owner of the car. The problem is, if that owner sold it without actually doing any of the proper V5 stuff, especially if it was an old car that was potentially used as a donor, it might not even be the owner. I don't think I'm getting the actual car that my dad used to own. But that doesn't mean to say I'm not going to get a 230e. Unfortunately, it looks like the car's vanished. So last record was, as I said, 12 years after my dad bought it. In 2000 he sold the car. Now 2000 is also the very year I learned to drive, so you can read into that what you will. I do know he sold it to somebody in Ayr, and they were planning to do a resto because the car did have issues by the time it went. But fundamentally, it's gone. I can't find any trace of it, so we're gonna have to go to plan B here, and as you've probably gathered by now, that plan is to pick up a W123. Now, I should probably get to the point of why that's going to be a thing. I've been thinking about this for a while, about daily drivers, because I don't have any that I like. Now, I know I've got my project cars, we've got the Supra, we've got the MX-5, I'm building a car from scratch, but my day-to-day driving isn't a lot. You know, I live quite close to where I work, I don't have a big commute, and generally speaking, I don't do massive miles. But I do like to have a car that I can just jump in that doesn't go blah and annoy the neighbours or has reliability issues. I need something that is just basic, simple and works. But the problem is, as you've known, my Bangernomics tactics, I just don't gel with the cars when I buy them. So as a result, I hate them. And then I don't look after them, and then they die. So what I need is a daily driver that I'm going to really, really love, but it's going to be really, really reliable. Enter the W123. Right, not getting my dad's one has actually opened up a world of possibility here, because now there are multiple W123 options that I can look at. Now straight off the bat, I can discount diesels. Back in the day they weren't particularly good and they're loud, clattery. Yes, they may be reliable, but I want a nice Merc, not a loud, clattery one. So that leaves me with the petrol variants. Now the W123 came in the 200 form. Now that's the 2 litre, but it's carbureted. It's a bit too old tech for me. I want this thing to be reliable, and I'm not saying the carb isn't, but if I was to go to the 230e, that comes with the Bosch fuel injection. Still not exactly high tech by modern standards, but it's a bit more robust than just old carb stuff. Of course, I'm discounting the 280 and above, where you get the nice straight 6, and also there's twin cam variants, but they're rare, pricey, and well, if I just stick with the 230e, it means that I'm also getting the car my dad had, so we're going to narrow the search down to that. And that does narrow it down considerably. But not entirely. There's also the TE, which is the estate version. Now I need an estate, I like an estate. An estate's thoroughly practical, but they're also, for some reason, wildly more expensive than the saloon. I can understand why, the practicality does help that, but they're actually rarer to get parts for. There's a lot of discontinued things on the estate that the saloon still has. I guess they were just a bit of a rarer vehicle. So I'm going to rule that out as well. Obviously, I'm going to have to open up colour because I'm not going to get a blue one, but I'm still quite narrow on choice. So I've been on the phone to 2 folk already, and having seen the pictures and videos and all the walk around and such, we are looking national here. I was borderline ended up in France for one, but the problem is corrosion. Now remember, yes, these are old Mercs, they're robust, they had proper coating before the whole water-based paint nonsense came around, but they're also 40 odd years old, so they're going to be rusty if they've not been taken care of. Indeed, I think that's what killed my dad's. Now I'm not saying rust is going to be a problem. I can deal with rust, we can do welding, but I kind of just want this to be nice. I know you guys are probably expecting a project off the back of this, but I'm not. I just want something that I can love and cherish, and I'm prepared to spend a bit for that. but I don't want to spend a lot of money and still end up with a rust bucket. All that being said and done, I think I've found one. So we're going to go and have a look. It's a Sunday. Why? Right. This is the commitment you have to make when you're going to go pick up a car from the other end of the country. It's pretty severe for a Sunday though. So, boys are on their way. They obviously have been up before this and collected each other and are heading to me. So, let's kick off with a few of the essentials I am taking when you're buying a car of this vintage and driving it the guts of 300 miles home. I'm needing slightly less choke as the minutes pass. Now this seller has assured me that this car is in tip-top condition, and when I inspect it and agree that it is in tip-top condition, that's on me. But I still have 300 miles on my own to prove that. There's no shame in it. First thing is an RAC membership, because I have went quite a long time without one now, but we're doubling down. Power bank. Do not assume that the cigar lighter is working, and do not assume it will remain working even if it is. However, if it does, that is an FM transmitter and phone charger that goes into the cigar lighter. Suction mount phone holder, normally seen filming me in MX-5. Sunglasses and a big wad of money, but let's be honest, that's not coming home with me. Also, because it would be absolute insanity, I'm not leaving home without my toolkit that I normally use in auto testing, and that comes with ratchets, spanners, screwdrivers, hex and Torx drivers, and of course 5 litres of oil and a big jug of water. That should hopefully cover every eventuality, but in addition we've also got in the car downstairs lengths of various hose for coolant and fuel, just in case. It is, after all, a 42-year-old car. Now, just hear a car pulling up outside, so Daniel and Brian are here. We're going to start the big long voyage. Today, our road trip is taking us to Leicester. Apparently, taking pictures of your food for Instagram's a thing. This will not be a thing here. Num 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 num. So we're in the Mighty Crown, owner of which has been relegated to the back seat, and we are 1 hour into a 5-hour journey to Leicester.
And as usual, there's people in the middle lane for no reason.
Why is this the transit lane for all 3 lane motorways?
That's the middle lane. There's 70 in the middle lane. Oh, there we go.
Move over. There we go.
That's good.
Probably, yeah. So our musical selection is already causing great debate. We've started off with an hour of Spanish music, courtesy of Spanish Daniel. We've now moved on to Smooth FM's greatest hits, courtesy of Old Man Brian. So,
and then we're going to put that really weird dance music on that you listen to that no one else has.
So, for context, if you ever watch the Supra videos, that's the music I like. That I tend to try and put copyright free on as much as I can, but the Supra stuff I'm like, I just want to make what I want to make, so that's the music.
Weird music.
It's apparently weird.
Tommy made back in the 90s on his Casio keyboard. Just for you, Daniel.
It's been 3 hours. Right, I'm not a big fan of filming sellers when I'm buying cars, and I don't know if the day will ever come where I am. So let's just skip to the point. I'm in Leicester, we've arrived, and have I bought a Merc? Oh yes. Keys. Shut out the outside world for a moment. We're just about to depart for the big long voyage home, but I don't really want to hang around Leicester and do this chat because we've got many miles ahead of us. So I'll just get to the point. 1982 gold Mercedes 230e, 122k on the clock. It's stunning. Look at it, it is so nice. I'll be honest, the white walls I seen in the ad and I was like, well, they'll be getting instantly changed. I just turned up and as soon as we were done with the look through, I just stood back, looked at it with the seller and I was just like, I love it. I actually don't like white walls ever, apart from this. Just everything about this car is just, it's just beautiful. This is a bit of a strange sensation. The last time I drove one of these, I was 17. First impressions, it still very much feels like my dad's car. The steering wheel's huge, it's all fancy, nice and opulent and stuff, but yeah, let's get on the go. So yeah, I'm going to cast off quite quick here because there's a misfire, which in a normal car, you'd be like, fine, I'll just dial in some revs and get by it. It only misfires on idle. The problem being an automatic, that means it's blah, 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 blah. In other news, not a great deal else to report. It seems in pretty good shape. It's going, it's stopping, it's not overheating. I'm chatting to you whilst not looking at sat-nav, so apologies if this takes a bit of a wrong turn. But what we now have is 300 miles where I go hypercritical and then after 50 miles, slightly less hypercritical on a downward curve until I'm actually going, tits, I need to get out of Leicester before I actually get this chatting to go. Anyway, it drives, it moves, and I've bought it. Let's get it home. So, the car's here, drove up the road fine, actually surprisingly fine. I was even braced for more than it gave me, which is a really good sign. That means it's going to be a bit of a winner. So in the next episode, we're going to get a wee dive under the bonnet, see what's what, and then ultimately I'm going to go take it down and let my dad have a look at it. So don't forget, like, bell, subscribe, patreon.com/toursontrack, and until next weekend guys, drive safe.